The other emotion I had was horrified admiration for American conservatives. They have planned this for decades. They have been strategic, much more strategic than Democrats when it comes to thinking about the protection of reproductive freedom. And they've won. And I feel, of course, a lot of anger and horror at Alito, all of the conservative judges, the Supreme Court in general, which I think is a deeply flawed institution, all of the Republicans who made this happen. But I'm also very angry with all the Democrats who have allowed this to happen, since it's been so clear to anyone who's been watching for the last few decades that this has been the game plan all along.
Exactly. And frankly, the fact that they've been caught flat-footed is reprehensible. I'm reminded of a quote from Nancy Pelosi in 2017. Do we have that? Just really briefly, talking about how abortion should not be a front-facing issue for Democrats. Maybe if we just have the headline there, we can pull that up. But sorry for springing that on you guys. But that the fact that they seemingly have zero plan B. Yesterday, the Roe v. Wade codification bill predictably failed in the Senate that is not going to carve out a filibuster exemption for women's reproductive health and just their humanity, human rights. Nancy Pelosi said this in 2017, which is just shocking. I mean, frankly, Pelosi said Democratic candidates should not be forced to toe party line on abortion. She said it was, quote, fading as an issue for Democrats. That was in 2017. Now here we are, 5 years later.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Democratic candidates shouldn't have to toe the line on respecting women's bodily autonomy with resisting the onslaught against women, against trans people, against queer people, against poor people, predominantly poor people of color, immigrants. These are all of the people whom this will affect. And I mean, part of what I object to so much on Pelosi's line is the thought that, well, everyone keeps their own moral counsel about abortion. And I actually think that's pretty right. I think that people have the right to have, a view on what may be a fairly complicated moral issue on the question of, whether oneself would get an abortion. Of course, one never really knows until one is in those circumstances. The political question here, the legal question here is a different question, right? Here's the tragedy behind this, is that abortions don't go down when it is criminalized. More women just die. Right. And that's what conservatives in this country, I'm sorry to say, want. I mean, what this is about is not simply about the control of women's bodily autonomy, although it is. It's also about penalizing any woman who wants to have non-reproductive sex, who wants to have sex for any reason apart from serving the patriarchal reproductive order, producing new bodies for the next generation. Yeah, well, we're seeing, I mean, frankly, there's one of the dominating principles on the right is the commitment to punishment. And they want to punish trans people for existing, and they also want to punish women if they have sex outside of marriage, if they decide to take that into their own hands. I mean, it's no coincidence that we're now seeing discussion of perhaps we should ban IUDs in the morning after pill. The contraceptive that women have the most control over individually. A man might be able to see if you're taking birth control every day. I mean, although they'll come to that next. The birth control pill, I should say, condoms, etc. The man has more control over that. But the ones that a woman has control over, in that she has agency over, that's what they're going to target next, obviously. And it's so interesting, of course, because those are the two forms of contraception that were really at issue in the Hobby Lobby case, right? Which was one of the important building blocks to get us to precisely where we are today. But the horizon here isn't just abortion, right? It's about every right, constitutionally guaranteed right that the left and progressives have fought for, which have not been recognized for the longue durée of American history, right? The right to racially desegregated schools, the right to gay marriage, the right to contraception. If you look at Alito's reasoning, if one can call it that, in the majority, what will be the majority opinion, one finds that it will just apply easily to all of those constitutionally, or what we should think of as constitutionally guaranteed rights. That's the long game here. It's reversing all of that, taking us back many decades.
100%. And I will get off this in a second, but just to return to Pelosi's statement there, what else is an organizing principle for Democrats if it's not protecting a woman's right to choose? Because frankly, leadership at least is not committed to really any broad economic policy set like Medicare for all or a Green New Deal. That's only the progressive wing. So what else do they stand for, frankly? And they still are allowing someone in their tent named Henry Cuellar and campaigning for him, frankly, who is an anti-choice Democrat. So it's a depressing time, and it's a good time to have you on to discuss these issues